of you who don't know me, and many of you I know are repeat players, but repeat viewers, but I'm Christine Jacobs. I have the honor of being the Executive Director of Represent PA. We are the PAC in Pennsylvania that's dedicated to flipping the Pennsylvania legislature blue with strong, progressive, pro-choice women. And we feel like if we get the majority we want and the type of candidates and the type of legislators we want, Pennsylvania can be a wholly different state to live in. And a little bit on the optimistic side, but that's who we are. One of the things that I also love about the work that we do is that I get calls at the beginning of the legislative district or legislative session. I got a number of emails from current legislators saying, please send us more like the ones we just got, because the women are saying, well, I'm not going to say anything for a while. They're all women who have something to say because they've done things in their past already and they're willing to make a difference. So I'm not going to go through all of these slides in detail. Many of you who've been with us before know we have to make a difference. We have 90 Dems in the House. We need to get to 103 this time. We have 20 Dems in the Senate. We need to be at 25 if we have a Democratic lieutenant governor. All of these are doable, not easy, but doable. And we like to remind people, Pennsylvania ranks 31st out of the 50 states in terms of percentage of women in our legislature. I'm proud of our work in that we ranked 40th in 2016. So we've made a lot of progress, but we've got more to go. As I said earlier, we only support pro-choice women. There are some Democratic women who run for office, some Democratic men who are not pro-choice. We don't support any men, and we're not going to support somebody who is not completely pro-choice. Pennsylvania legislature long has had a number of Democrats who were squishy on this issue. We are not squishy, and if this week didn't remind everybody the importance of our work. And you know what? In the Pennsylvania legislature right now, there are at least 18 bills directly related to abortion that are pending in the House or the Senate. Now, our current governor likes to talk about the fact that he has vetoed legislation that he doesn't like, and as long as he's in office, he'll keep vetoing, but he's only going to be there until January. Our current gubernatorial But there are two proposed constitutional amendments in Pennsylvania that will strengthen potential bans. And constitutional amendments do not have to go to the governor. They have to be passed by two separate sessions in the legislature and go for a statewide vote. But just like the constitutional amendment recently that limited the governor's emergency powers, they put it on the ballot in a spring election when an awful lot of people don't vote in a primary in an odd number year. This is serious, and the only way we do this is by flipping the legislature. If Roe is overturned, be prepared. Every state out there who's got a Republican majority in the state is looking at what other kinds of anti-choice legislation. We know it's coming for us too. We have two state reps and state senator who've already proposed 3 bills to fight back and strengthen reproductive health and rights. It never makes it to committee discussions. It never makes it to the floor. Nothing happens without the majority. This isn't any, oh, let's meet halfway, let's negotiate. The leadership in Harrisburg does not allow votes on things or even committee discussions often on things that we want. We need more pro-choice, progressive Democratic legislators. Can I say it one more time? We only support Democratic women who are pro-choice because we want them to see the difference we want in Harrisburg. Our investment strategy is we're all out. In 2020, we invested $500,000 in 45 House and 8 Senate candidates, and we didn't win very many of them. But almost all of our women won re-election. So far in this cycle, in December, we invested $64,000 in 13 incumbent legislators. In April, last month, we invested $200,000 . 200 receive funding from Represent. And the amounts that we sent out were bigger than the amounts that we'd sent last cycle. But we spent it all. We spent an awful lot of what we had. And now we're in the process of trying to raise another at least $200,000 so that we can at least equal what we did last year and last cycle. And if I mentioned how important this campaign cycle is for us and for all Pennsylvanians. Candidates need resources and support early. Now, the 6 candidates you'll hear from today do not have competitive primaries, but we have many other candidates that we invested in who have competitive primaries. You know, one of the things we do is that we invest in primaries often where there's a strong woman candidate running against a male candidate in a primary for an open seat, for example. Many other PACs support the Democrat in the fall. And that's what the caucuses do also. That's not us, because we've had too many cases in the past where women were told, hey, you don't have a chance. We want to, we want to win this seat. So we better put the generic white guy in. And some of them are very strong and very good candidates. But the only way we end up with a reflective democracy in Pennsylvania is by playing in the primary, and that's what we do. And we want to make sure that our candidates and candidates who reflect what we want are in the general election. So we invested in primaries and a lot of money, but now we got to go back and replenish the coffers. So today we're going to talk about, as I mentioned, 6 amazing candidates, 6 women who have put their hat in the ring, who have said that they're running for office. And Represent, we'd like to tell everybody that we're the mutual fund of PACs in Pennsylvania. We don't invest in every woman running for office. We can't. We don't have enough money. There's so many applications we get, and they come with notes of, just give me something, make me, and I go, my heart sinks. But if we were a mutual fund where you were investing your retirement savings, there are some companies you can go, God, I really like that CEO and I like what they're doing. I don't think they can make a product. I don't think they'll ever have a product, but gosh, I like them. That is just not the way you want your retirement savings invested. And that's not what we do. We curate a good collection, a great collection of women. We're lucky that most of the women who are running this cycle are running in races that they can win. But you don't want to hear that from me. You want to hear it from them. So with no further, I've asked each of our 6 candidates to talk for about 5 minutes and just tell us where's your district? Why are you running? Do you have a particular issue you like? And can you win? Because that's what we want everyone to hear. Sara Agerton. Sara is from Dillsburg, Pennsylvania. She's got an MA in social work. One of the things you'll see today also, I meant to mention, is we support women with a variety of different backgrounds. Not everybody's going there because they want to just do this subject or this subject. I'm an environmentalist, I'm a this, I'm a that. These women have a wide variety of backgrounds. And one of the things we've learned with the candidates we've elected so far is they learn, once they get to Harrisburg, they learn to figure out who's an expert in what. And so I've had legislators tell me, I pour over the ones having to do with education because these are the bills that I pay close attention to. I have no idea what some of this environmental stuff means, but so-and-so does. And so I trust her, and let us work together on figuring out who's the expert and who can lead these topics. And that's the kind of thing you'll hear from our candidates today. So Sara, tell me why you fit that mold.
I have been a social worker for 20 years now, and I have navigated the system from birth to death, currently serving as a healthcare administrator for a hospice agency. So healthcare is always top of mind for me, as I have navigated families in every aspect. The themes repeat themselves. There's gaps in services, there's not enough affordable or accessible healthcare for people. And that doesn't matter if they're children or if they're senior citizens. So as a social worker, I've been exposed to so much and helping people navigate the system. And I love what you said. I love to surround myself with the experts. I want to be around people that are going to tell me how to do things better and to protect, my neighbors and my constituents. So for that 20 years of social working, the last 2 years of my life have probably been the hardest. I, as most healthcare administrators, have fallen victim to poor planning and our healthcare crisis. And as I've listened to all of the discussions about Roe versus Wade, it just makes my heart break, because our healthcare system's already fractured, and now we're going to be taking away a choice that every woman may have to make at some point in their life. And for other people to assess judgment and to make legislation based on a very difficult time is unreal to me. And the empathy has been lost, and we need to fight for it. And so I believe that coming in as a social worker, I have a fresh perspective on how to get things done and how to advocate. I always say I'm the best advocator for my clients because I yell and I fight and I don't give up. Those things are really important to me. And I've seen women particularly suffering in the state of Pennsylvania, finding housing, making sure that they can get their health care, making sure that they're paid equally. All of these things speak to my heart. And during that time, the last 2 years, I also was elected to Borough Council in Mechanicsburg. I was the first woman and Democrat in a long time to make that journey to that seat at that table, breaking up the perspective from older white men that were making decisions in our town. And I'm happy to say that I believe in mentoring other women, and I was able to bring another woman on with me this last election cycle. So it is important to me to be at the forefront making decisions. My incumbent has been there for 14 years, and she definitely is a backbench seat. For women's rights, but she does not make decisions based that. She votes party line. And unfortunately, I think this is too important at this point. We need to fight. And every election cycle, we get closer to flipping the seat. With the redistricting, I believe we can do it. She's inherited a new territory that's new to her and will be new to me. So we're on equal stomping ground. I'm out there knocking doors, and I believe that my team is strong and my words are strong and I'm relatable. And I think that we can take Cheryl from that seat and flip Cumberland County, part of it, blue. And I think that's important. It's an important, we're kind of the hub in the middle of a lot of stuff that's going on. We're close to Harrisburg, we're close to Philly, and we need to have a blue seat there. And more, the more decisions are being made, we need to make sure and ensure our place in Pennsylvania. So I'm super excited to be running, and super excited to get someone who does not vote for women's issues out of there and change the face of Pennsylvania.
Wow, Sara, thank you so much. And I love, I hope everybody's noticing, an awful lot of our candidates are in the Philadelphia area because that's where a lot of the blue is. But I love that the blue is moving. We've got a number of women that we support in Allegheny, and we're hoping that we can flip some seats with strong women like Sara. So thank you very much. So Gwen Stultz. Gwen has been around Bucks County for a while. We've talked with Gwen before, but never as a candidate, and specifically as a candidate. And Gwen, tell us why you're going to flip HD 143.
Thank you so much just for having this forum and for inviting me here to speak. I am incredibly honored to have been endorsed by Represent PA along with so many other amazing women. As you said, my name is Gwen Stultz. I'm running for state representative in the 143rd district, which is in the central part of Bucks County. So a little on my background, just to give you all a little perspective on where I'm coming from and really why I'm running for office right now. As you mentioned, I grew up here. Bucks County has been my home base for more than 40 years now. I went through the public schools here, and now I am proudly raising my 3 children here with my husband, Frank, that also grew up in Bucks County on a farm. So we're both locals. But professionally, I'm a research biochemist and scientific writer. accountable for pollution and to help prevent future pollution events. We covered all of Region 3 for EPA, which includes Pennsylvania, and we traveled around to facilities to make sure that they were following Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act regulations, which is known as EPCRA. On the community involvement side, I'm in my 7th year as an elected Democratic committee person, so been out there knocking doors for other candidates for several years now. I've got a countywide role with the party on our bylaws committee. I'm an active member of the Bucks County Women's Advocacy Coalition and a proud member of the Bucks County League of Women Voters and Bucks County NAACP. And it really was out of all of that involvement that it just became apparent to me what was going on and what was really at stake this election cycle. And that is that we're currently experiencing a crisis of truth and facts that is perpetuating an attack on our voting rights, putting our democracy on the line. And of course, now that this opinion's been leaked from the Supreme Court, indicating that Roe will be overturned, the stakes could not be higher in Pennsylvania. Reproductive rights are on the ballot this November, and I believe that it is important that our campaign in the 143rd District sends a clear message that we stand with the majority of Americans in wanting to uphold Roe. And I will stand up and I will speak out for people to have the freedom to make private medical decisions and for bodily autonomy. We're also continuing to experience record levels of flooding and tornadoes in areas that never saw tornadoes before. So we've really got to address climate change. Clean water, sustainable agriculture, flooding and erosion are all issues that are relevant in my district. There's also a real concern here about the local economy, and there's a really after they've been hit so hard through the pandemic. But it really is my passion for all of these issues, and frankly many more, that compels me to run for office right now. The good news is that we do have a real shot to win in this district with the right approach, with the right amount of support. And what we're finding here is that issues that cross party lines are environmental in nature in the 143rd, and therefore scientific in nature, which, because my background is in the sciences, that makes me a good fit for this district in particular. I can speak to those topics with a level of credibility. I'm also a small business owner, and I come from a family of small business owners, so I can speak from experience on those topics as well. But basically, growing up here, raising a family here, being a small business owner and a scientist gives me the knowledge and experience to deliver results for the residents of the 143rd District, and that is what I am committed to do. And I am excited to work hard to flip this seat, to get this back for all of us, because as was already indicated, we have a shot this cycle to take control of the House.
And
but
Gwen, my big question for you is it a winnable seat? You know, this is a seat that our Wendy Ullman held, and for one term, and we were all big fans of Wendy. But it looks like they made the district a little redder. So here's what we got. It's similar politically to the old 143rd. It is purple. We have a large block of registered independent voters, and that really, they're the key to our success. The reason I highlighted those environmental issues is because they really are crossing party lines. Because I'm a scientist, I can speak on those issues. They're not partisan issues. We have real issues with clean water. There's PFAS contamination here. There's those issues do resonate. And the other thing I will say is the incumbent that I'm running against, how do I put this politely, is a weak incumbent. You know, we outraised her just in this last cycle by 14 times, not 14%, 14 times. We got twice the number of signatures that she did during petitions. And I will just continue to go like the Energizer Bunny and knock as many doors, meet as many people as possible. And that's really our path to success here, because people are feeling let down
even by her constituent services. She, you know.
Yeah, no, that's great, Gwen. Thank you so much. And one of the things I wanted to make sure everybody on this call knows is that we have a lot of faith in the House Democratic campaign committee for the state right now. And one of the things that they've asked every candidate to do is to really understand what are the big issues in their own district. So there are statewide issues, but there are things that are really important within that district to talk to. And that's what Gwen is going at here. I love the discussion. Thank you very much, Gwen. I told you I was going to keep to time. We'll get questions later. Missy, it's nice to see you, nice to talk with you. You know, we've known of Missy because she's been working for State Rep Liz Hanbidge, who we are all big fans of, and were our early funders of her campaign 4 years ago. But Missy, tell us why you're a great candidate now and how you're going to flip this district.
Thank you so much for having me. So this was actually not something that I had in the cards. The Democratic committee came to me about 3 weeks before petitioning started. At that point, I was still working in Liz's office as her district office director. And they said, we need a strong candidate. We need someone who truly cares about her community and is willing to work as hard as they will need to in order to flip this seat. I have 4 daughters happening in our federal level, you know, about women's right to choose. This is something that should never be legislated. Frankly, we shouldn't have to legislate for a woman's right to choose. This should just be a medical decision between a woman and, you know, her doctor and safety, etc. So, you know, having 2 teenage daughters and 2 8-year-olds, I'm at both ends of the spectrum here. I am very much concerned with their futures, and gosh forbid they ever are put in a position where they need to make a choice. I want to be there to ensure that that choice is there for them, as it has been for me my entire life. I also very much care about our public education system. All 4 of my daughters currently attend public schools. So it is very important to me to ensure that fair funding is used when deciding how our public education systems are properly funded, and charter school reform. So those are the big issues that I come into this race and hold dear to my heart. My husband is a union member, so clearly I am on the side of unions. I want to fight for safety and security of our Pennsylvania workers. I think that a fair wage should be instituted in Pennsylvania. I feel that it is not right that any human being should be working a full-time job and not be able to afford a roof over their head or food in their family's mouths. So when I was asked to run, I have worked in Liz's office, running it and dealing with constituents for 4 years, hearing the pain, hearing the anger and the heartbreak over what has happened. And how the decisions in Harrisburg are truly affecting real everyday people. While our constituent base may not follow general votes, and that I believe is how we ended up with my opponent, who has been in office for 12 years. They see him at a ball game and he's a nice enough guy. Honestly, he and I have communications and we are friendly in a sense that we talk about our kids. I was at his son's birthday party a few years ago. That doesn't mean that he is the right person to lead our values, especially with redistricting. Our area is approximately 60% Democratic registered at this point. Those numbers are highly deceiving because just because there is a high registration, we have had traditionally very low turnout in certain areas. So this race is all about field work for me. It is about going out. It is about meeting people. The one resounding thing that I hear about my opponent is that if he talks to a Trumpster, they get one side of him. And if he talks to a liberal Democrat, they get a completely different view of his stance. The one thing that I have heard about myself through doors is that it's refreshing, that I'm authentic. I'm not telling people what they want to hear. I'm telling them I do have 4 daughters. I am a woman. So issues on right to choose and issues on education are highly important to me. But someone who is 65 years old who has never had a child may have very different issues that are affecting them. the one thing that I can say at every door is I have been the one. When you call your representative's office, I'm the one answering the phone. I'm the one that already has relationships with all of those liaisons and all of the state departments and the county and the townships. And I have already built a rapport with them. I know how to work with them. I know how to do this job and get the things accomplished that need to be done for people on an everyday level, as well as the legislative side. I have seen firsthand that I have met with constituents with Rep. Hambidge. We have created bills that would benefit our community, and they have never made it out of committee simply because the chair refuses to bring forward a Democratic bill. I personally, if a Republican came to me and had a decent bill that was good for my community, I would have no problem signing on to that bill. The problem is that right now, our Republican legislators are becoming such extremists that they're not putting out decent bills for our community. They are putting out the worst bills to strip rights, whether it be from LGBTQ plus communities, whether it's women's rights. We are literally seeing our rights being stripped every day. And that's why I stood up to do this. Not because I want the title, not because I want any kind of power or fame, but I truly believe that my community needs to be represented and our values need to show in Harrisburg. There is no path to flipping the House without earning this seat in the 151st. And I absolutely plan to work as hard as humanly possible to get it done.
Thank you so much, Missy. You know, your campaign reminds me so much of the one that Liz Hambidge ran 4 years ago, in that she was running against an existing legislator who everybody said, oh, I like Kate Harper. She's so nice and she's so good for our district. And she's not one of those Republicans until you looked at her voting history, and she votes against any kind of, voted against any kind of gun limitations and not exactly pro-choice. So it was, and I love the fact that in running against the person you're running against, who shall be not named, it's the same kind of campaign. And I think that's wonderful. So thank you very much. And you're right, it is a district, unlike Gwen's district, which at least on paper became a little bit more red. This one became a little bit more blue. And so we're with you.
Thank you.
Lisa Borowski, speaking of districts that have changed a lot and made changes. Lisa is an time resident of the Philadelphia area. So Lisa, tell us about your path to victory and why you're a great candidate.
Well, good morning, Christine, and thank you all so much for having me. I can't tell you how much it means to me to have the support of Represent. I have a friend who's been long involved with Represent. I've long admired her involvement in that. So it really is a thrill for me to have your support, and I thank you for investing in my campaign. We are using those dollars wisely as we build up our field operations and are ready to hit the ground running as soon as the primary is over and we can start to get our message out there. So I am running in the newly redrawn 168th, which is outside of Philadelphia in Delco. It is one of the last remaining red seats in our county. Chris Quinn is the incumbent in that seat, and we have come very close to unseating him. I think last cycle in 2020, we came close by about 800 votes. The redrawn district is definitely more favorable for a Democrat. And what is most significant about the district is Radnor has been drawn into. So Radnor Township was not part of the 168th before. It has been drawn together. We've been split between two districts, but we're drawn together into the new 168th. And that is what makes it so competitive now for a Democrat, especially a Democrat with name recognition coming out of Radnor Township. So I'm running because I've always been deeply committed to service. And at a time when our democracy hangs in the balance, as we've all been talking about, and as Christine so eloquently put, you know, women's rights are they're under attack. And as someone who spent my entire career in healthcare and as a woman, I can't tell you how frightening this is, not just also for women, but for the healthcare providers that are giving this care. to people. The hospitals that I work for, providing these services to women, reproductive health is so important. I work in underserved communities. It is essential on every single level, and any attempts to weaken those abilities and weaken the abilities of our healthcare providers to provide that care is of deep concern to me. So that is kind of part of my motivation as well for working towards this seat. So I've always been very active in our community. I never really thought I would run for office, but then one night about 11 years ago, I was sitting on our couch yelling at my TV as our school board was making decisions that I felt were just really weakening our school district. Radnor has one of the best school districts in the state of Pennsylvania. We're really proud of it. But at the time, a Republican-led majority school board was just not investing in the future of our schools. So I got up off my couch in my pajamas and I drove to our township building to yell at the school board in my pajamas before public comment was ended. So in that moment, I decided, well, I can't just be a crazy woman running around in my pajamas. I needed to do something to make a difference. So I ran for school board. I was elected that year. The year I was elected in 2011, we flipped the school board blue for the first time ever in Radnor. It was incredible and amazing. And I was so proud to be part of that. And then after that, I ran for commissioner. So I've been commissioner here in Radnor Township. I'm in my 5th year, so just won re-election in 2021. And the first time that I ran, I was elected in a Republican majority ward. So I'm actually married to a Republican also. So I feel like I'm able to kind of bridge the gap. And I think it was Gwen that was talking about the issues. I believe there are more issues that bring us together than divide us. And definitely here in the district, you know, I see that on a daily basis as a commissioner, as I work to meet the needs of my constituents. So I've served as vice president on our school board, president of a Republican majority board of commissioners, and also as vice president. I'm proud to say that when I first joined the board, I was the only woman, took the seat of the only woman at the time. And now we have 4 women who are on our board. And again, we are serving under a female president, and it is just so exciting. We also have a Democratic board, 6-1 majority. So we're excited about that. So service is my North Star. I love our community. I've grown up in the 168th. I lived my entire life here, raised my 2 sons here with my husband. And when so much is on the line, you know, I really do feel that I need to step up. So we're going to talk about my opponents. So last week made it crystal clear to us what is on the line. And I am running against a Republican who is dangerously pro-life. He's voted to ban abortion at 20 weeks. To require burial of fetuses, and to criminalize abortion as an offense punishable by life in prison. So again, as someone who works in healthcare, this is so scary to me. We have physicians and nurses and healthcare workers that spend their careers helping women make these difficult decisions, save their lives, make their lives better. You know, we know that women who have babies before they're ready, they drop out of high school. I mean, this is a cycle that we need to break. And the Republicans and my opponent are working so hard to continue to repress women and keep them down. So as long as he sits in the state legislature, he is a threat to the fundamental freedom of women across Pennsylvania. We have to beat him.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Lisa. You know, I'll let everybody answer a couple questions later, but I wanted to keep the schedule. A couple of things Lisa mentioned that I want to make sure you heard. First of all, I love that she got up out of her seat in her PJs and went and yelled at people, but she decided to stop yelling at her TV. That's how Represent was formed. A lot of us didn't want to, our ones who wanted to run for office, we want to support those of you out there putting your lives and your time and your energy into these campaigns. And that's why we exist, is so people like me and a number of our other donors have a way to commit to this cause. And whenever I start yelling at the TV, I wonder what else I should be doing. So thank you for that comment. The other thing that's been clear listening to everybody is there's an old expression in politics that, you know, if you're not at the table, if you're not in the legislature, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And if we haven't seen this time the value of having women in leadership, the value of having women at the table, it's this year. And that is crystal clear in the candidates we've listened to so far. Back to you last time in a race for Senate, but I'm really excited that you decided to step up again and run for office again in Monroe County. Again, an area outside of Philadelphia that is ripe for flipping, and we think you're the candidate to do it. So tell everybody why.
Well, thank you for having me represent and for your support throughout the years. And I just want to say, going like last against these wonderful women, it's like everything they said and more. It really sums it up for me. Quickly, because I know we only have 5 minutes. My background is, you know, I was born and raised in this area. It's part of Monroe County and a little portion of Pike County. And I was raised by single women. My grandmother had a 7th grade education. My mother had an 11th grade education. My Aunt Barb went back and got her GED later in life, but all single moms, and it was generational. So I had a village that raised me and my 3 brothers. Wouldn't know my father. To me and my 3 older brothers was education and love and support. So nobody can do anything alone. It takes a village. And when Hillary Clinton said that back in 1992, that really resonated with me as I was in college. So, but anyway, their thing was education. So I am a huge supporter of public education. My mother's children are the first to graduate high school. My brother Tony's a sitting judge in Chester County. I have a law degree, and I was the first female mayor elected in over 200-year history in the borough of Stroudsburg. My first election, I won by 33 votes. My second election, I won by 67% of the vote. And my third election, this past November, I won by 70% of the vote. So I have a proven leadership and we have wonderful turnouts. So how I got into the role of the mayor of Stroudsburg is fighting a Tea Party school board that was elected in November of 2013. We had a very low voter turnout, 28%. She went back to win, you know, in 16, 18, and 20. But it's a very low turnout. So day one on the job of this Tea Party school board, they closed elementary schools. So myself and parents were outraged because they had no right doing it and no reason doing it, except for they did not support public education. Well, that following primary in May of 2015, we swept all 5 Republican candidates out on their own ticket with Democrats. So the Stroudsburg School Board has since been all Democrat. I flipped, not me, I hate this, you know, it's always a village, but me being the first female mayor of Stroudsburg, we also flipped the borough of Stroudsburg, all Democrats. And not only that, Monroe County, and I was on the cover of the Philadelphia Inquirer, April 16th, 2021, to help flip Monroe County blue. So we are now a blue county. Of course, our representation being so gerrymandered does not show it that way. DPI Democrat. And in 2018, when I ran for the Senate, I ran against a 20-year incumbent, Mario Scavello, who's not running anymore. And I secured almost 44,000 votes in such a gerrymandered district. But the key to this for me is that the areas that this new district covers, I beat him by almost 2,000 votes, and I beat Rosemary Brown, who was sitting in the 189th, by 350 votes. So this is my seat to win. And as soon as it was announced, and I announced I was running, Rosemary retired. So I just want you to know that my goal is to not only win, but crush my opponents, who are both men seeking to win this seat. I am for, when I was out of the womb and slapped on the butt and I was a Democrat. I just want to say that I'm raised by Democratic women. We had a rally. My voice is kind of shot because we had a rally for Roe v. Wade last night in Courthouse Square, and it was packed, and women are fierce. want over women, and it's despicable. You know, our bodies are battleground and we have to defend it. And I'm just going to fight for that. Of course, you know, civil liberties, equal rights. Of course, we're all saying that. In my district, Monroe County is the worst in the state for the funding of public education. So I'm fighting for fair funding. We're dead last, and we have to have equal funding because the taxpayers are just paying more per capita than anywhere else in the state for their schools. Education is key to me. That's why I am where I am today. Healthcare accessibility in Pike County, the nearest hospital is 35 minutes away, and you could take 40 minutes for an ambulance to get there. It's a matter of life or death. People are dying of heart attacks. I mean, things that they could be saved for, they're dying in Pike County because they have no accessible healthcare. So I will be fighting for that. And I was mayor in 2017 and sponsored a proclamation with Mayor Kenny of Philadelphia because Rosemary Brown, Mario Scavello, and Jack Rader voted to defund Planned Parenthood. So a local Planned Parenthood in the borough of Stroudsburg that serviced over 4,000 families for healthcare was shut down. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure there's affordable healthcare, you know, in my district. Living wages, I always support that. My mom was a waitress her whole life, and if she had to take a day off, you know, to take care of her kids, she never got paid. And that always makes me think of the unions, you know, the SIEU. My Aunt Barb made less than the people that reported to her working in a ribbon mill. I mean, unions are the backbone of the middle class, and security for 40-hour work weeks, all of that. So I support all of the democratic values. One of the other things that I just want to talk about, I think that's important before we move on to the questions, is that now is the time. Everybody that I've talked to was getting really, you know, upset with with the way things were going in regards to inflation, gas prices, food prices, and that's not Joe Biden's fault. And we all know that, but people don't know that. And we're trying to educate the voters. And I feel like now this fight for women kind of reinstalled a fire in Democrats to say, you know what, I'm not happy with the price of the eggs, but I got to go out there and defend women's rights. And I feel like this is the time. It seems like we're always fighting for them. There's never a dull moment. We're always under attack. But I feel like now we have the ability to gain those independents and to gain those moderate Republican women that could come out and vote for us. I sort of like when Missy was speaking, I'm with her. I don't tell you what you want to hear. I'm not a flip-flopper. I want access to abortion. I want it to be safe for women. And I don't care who asks me, that's my answer. I'm not going to, excuse my French, you know, flip around it to make people. I am today. I'm not going to stop doing it. I could talk forever, so I'm going to stop now.
No, that's great. Thank you so much, Tarah. And again, listen to what she's saying, and I can imagine her sitting there with some of the other legislators we've supported in the past who say, send me somebody who's real, send me somebody who knows who she is, send us more women who are willing to work for the things that they value. And haven't we heard from 5 candidates so far who are running for state legislature who would be great partners for our existing legislators? We also today have a candidate for state senate with us today, Anne Marie Mitchell from Bucks County. There are those who say that we have a little easier probability, maybe we can flip the House, but the Senate is not attainable. And I know Represent has supported some amazing 4 new women who are running for state senate this cycle, who all have a chance. So maybe we may have to throw a few men in there to actually flip the legislature.
Good morning, everyone. I want to echo some of the things everyone else has said about the importance of Represent PA and supporting female candidates. Not that long ago, there was another meeting where we talked about how female candidates, women candidates have difficulty getting the same level of support. And, you know, privately, some of us have had those conversations, including people who are already in office, that they make the phone call and they might get a check for $1,000 or, you know, maybe more, but that they find is their male colleagues who are probably who may be less distinguished, are getting twice that. And why is that? What inherent issues do we have that That's what makes, I think, women candidates have a more difficult time. It's not that we can't win, it's that we don't get the support we need on an equal footing. So we need to fight for it. So Represent PA is a huge part of you. Words can't express how important that is for us. Secondly, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So in 2020, I ran for state rep. I got there because my 15-year-old in 2018 was very involved in student activism. She got involved in a group, or founded a group called Buck Students Demand Action with a couple of other kids that were a little older than she was. She pulled a permit to do a march on the same day as March for Our Lives with a number of other groups around the country. And well, the back end of her ended up on a picture in the New York Times when they took shots at everybody. If you go to the one for Doylestown, the kid in the red sneakers is mine. She's now a junior at Barnard. So time's marched on quickly. But in the course of trying to decide what to do, we were talking about, whether or not to run for supervisor, how to make things better, because in 2018, we did not flip Bucks County blue. A lot of other places went, but this is sort of a more a microcosm, if you will, of Pennsylvania. So as a result, it's very purple, and some parts of it went blue, some parts of it stayed red. It was very, very close. The seat that I'm running for now, Representative Tina Davis ran for. She was 70 votes away from flipping, and that's after a horrible story broke where they publicly humiliated her husband, arresting him in front of cameras. I mean, it was completely treachery. And nonetheless, the retiring senator, so this is an open seat, by the way, won, but only by that narrow amount. The seat's now been slightly redistricted. I think break even is probably where it ended up. It didn't get better. Senator Sanacero's seat did, but this seat didn't get worse either. And what I think is also important about it is 1/4. So we have 4 state rep seats that underlie the Senate seat. 1/4 of it is Senator Maria Collette's district, and she's very well liked. So I feel like the folks there have embraced the concept and are happy with their female Democratic senator. I'm hoping to show them that I will be very much a similar representative for them. Two of the other seats are also flippable red to blue seats. The folks aren't on here now because, quite frankly, as Gwen knows, there aren't that many women running in Bucks County right now. I think Gwen and I may be the only newcomers. Everybody else, I think, is, then there's Tina, I think, is the incumbent, but I think the majority of folks running this year in Bucks are men. And then we have an open seat race that's actually in the House district that I ran for last time, where a far right school board candidate running. So why am I running this year? I'm running this seat. It's a really important seat. I couldn't imagine a year when we knew Roe was being challenged and likely to have a disastrous result. Who knew how bad it was going to be? And I guess we've yet to see exactly how bad it's going to be, but we can now guess. That I couldn't sit by and watch. We have an important gubernatorial race. I know that the only way that we get Josh as governor is if we also do the work locally. And these races are very much additive. And if you have a gap in any of those seats where someone's not working well, you put all the other seats at risk, particularly in Pennsylvania, where, you're looking at 50-50 on the governor's race. So this seat is very much aligned with Josh Shapiro's seat. Well, there's my 5 minutes. But in terms of all the issues that everyone's talked about, I have 2 children. My oldest has been very open about their mental health issues. LGBTQ plus issues are very important in my family. My eldest is trans. My youngest is obviously very active in gun violence prevention issues, or was. She's now at a women's college. She's informed us that she wants to be a teacher, notwithstanding what's going on in teaching. These are all the kinds of things that we want to fight for and support. And my district, which is a mix of working class lower income than working class, and then also upper middle class, is very diverse in terms of representing the state. So what everybody talked about, what Gwen talked about, we have PFAS issues, Gwen, we can have a long conversation about that. We have public education issues, Council Rock, which is where I live, and Central Bucks, which is where I guess Gwen is. Both just got flipped further to the right. Parents are unhappy. They're starting to see real problems, like canceling rent because somehow rent. And then people just need to be able to put food on the table. So, you know, I can't think of a better or more important thing to do in 2022, but I have to be honest, it's going to be expensive. It's going to be a lot of hard work. And, you know, if there's anything that you can do this year, it's if you can't be out there knocking doors, or even if you can be, I think opening up your support to the women that are here running and the other women that represent are supporting, that's the most important work, because they're doing the vetting for everybody, and they take this extremely seriously. I mean,
Thank you. That's great. And you know what I liked about what you said, Anne-Marie, and in addition to what everybody else said, is I think you summed up what we heard here today in terms of the number of different issues. And it goes to what I said at the beginning of this discussion today. You're going to hear from women who are passionate about healthcare, the environment, education, all water. And you're going to hear about these issues. If you go back, and you can go back and look at page, you'll find past breakfast briefings where we talk about a lot of these issues and how messed up it is in Pennsylvania, how we need a Democratic majority to talk about education, how we need a Democratic majority to change how water is regulated in the US, in Pennslevania. And on so many of these issues, nothing happens. State Rep Kruger Leanne Kruger said to me one day that this was the first year, this past session was the first time they've ever talked about climate change in the Environment and Education Committee. The first time, because there weren't enough Democrats on that committee to really push leadership. Now, the one person that they had talking about it, the special guest that they had, the quote expert, was a climate change expert who said that it didn't exist and it was a problem. But we had women like Danielle Otten, we had women like Leanne, we had strong women asking questions, so at least the issue was raised. So go back and read these things. The other thing that several of them mentioned is the importance of money. Hello, money is very important. Go back and listen to the one we did on women and money and power. And we did one recently, and we showed the statistics that say men give more money to male candidates than they do to female candidates, and women don't give as much to any candidates. And that's why one of the many reasons we exist. One quick, just round robin really quickly, if we could go through all of our 6 candidates. Independents. Do you have a route to fixing them, to getting them out there? Who wants to answer the question?
I can answer that question.
Go right ahead.
So I think that just keeping them engaged is so important, because I think that independents feel isolated, especially during the primaries, but going out and having a conversation with them and getting their opinion. So they're at the top of my list to continue engaging. And I've been fortunate to work at the polls for the last like 10 or 15 years. And one of the things that I've learned with my fellow poll workers is that they often agree and lean more towards the Democrat side, but they need to be engaged and they need to feel like their voices are heard. That's my plan.
It gets them away from labels. Lisa.
So, definitely putting me on those persuadable doors. So that is the goal. So I will be out at those doors. But the other thing, so being a commissioner and having one again in a Republican ward with a lot of independent support, I think one of the things we need to focus in on is some of the local issues. People are concerned about their roads. They're concerned. So the big issues are there, but people are really interested in some of the local issues and how are you going to help me and make my day-to-day better? So that's one of the things we're going to focus on as well.
So taking it away from being a party. Tarah.
Well, in 2016, we didn't have that luxury with independents. They stayed right. By 2020, they went back left. So my goal is to just keep on doing what I've been doing and talking to them exactly about the local issues, the fair funding, the equality, and I think we can win the majority of them over, which will determine the race.
Absolutely. Missy.
So I've already been knocking independent doors. I feel like they are going to be key in my race at this point. And I've been hearing from a lot of them like, oh, well, I can't vote in a primary. And I said, well, good news is I don't have a primary opponent. So I'm taking the time to actually get out and meet everyone involved. And I'm really hoping that I'll earn your support and having real conversations with them, listening to them say, we don't like the messaging that comes out of the Democrats. We may agree with the values, but we don't like some of the phrasing that's being used, or and being able to take that in and understand that it's not a direct attack against our values and what we're trying to accomplish, but that they're being turned off by certain words or phrases. And when you explain to them that that word doesn't necessarily mean what they are being forced to believe from the right and the TV and whatever Facebook they're watching, I think that has been instrumental in getting them to say that they wholeheartedly will support me at the end of that conversation. So really just taking the time to listen and not take it personally when they don't agree with everything you say. That's the one key, is no one's ever going to agree. Even in the Democratic Party, we have far left, we have rights, we have middle centrists. You know, at that point, you have to take every person's personal viewpoints and understand and accept them. And I think that's what independents are looking for. They don't feel that they 100% agree with
Right.
each party. So telling them that that's okay has been beneficial.
And by the way, our two biggest socialist programs in the United States today are Social Security and Medicare. You know, oh, was that my opinion? Can you find the independents?
Yes, this is definitely top of mind for me in the 143rd district. The good news here is that the whole district is trending blue. So if you look at the way people voted several years ago compared to now, they're going more blue. But I think everybody else that spoke previously hit the nail on the head. It is getting out and listening, being an active listener so that people feel heard. We don't have to agree on everything, but they need to feel like they're going to be heard.
That's
Yeah.
great. Thank you. And I know the HDCC is really working hard on the active listening piece in their polling. Sara.
Hi, I have a question for Lisa. Hi, Lisa. I'm interested in your history of fundraising for the Philadelphia Police Foundation. And I'm interested in, I have a African-American grandson, and every time he walks out in the street, I worry about police abuse. So can you talk about police reform and the positive part of that compared to police abuse?
So I worked for the Philadelphia Police Foundation, and they were a group organized. So it was actually headed up by a former police officer and then a lot of business people in the city who worked to raise money to kind of bridge the gap in where there was things missing in the budget, which there are a lot of, like as everywhere, for the police department. So one of the things that we did that we were particularly proud of, we ran a huge grant that sent police officers, and it still exists. They send police officers down to the Holocaust Museum to do training down there. So it's with the Anti-Defamation League. That is part of the training that they receive from the police academy. So that's with the newer generation of officers that are kind of coming up through the ranks. So I think that it's really important to get that training in. So we did that. I did work on and manage we had several DCED grants that helped fund the return of the mounted police. And one of the goals of the mounted police force is nonviolent confrontation. So they say when you bring in the officers on the horses into situations where there's a crowd or there's unrest or whatever, people part ways for the horses. Except here at Villanova, when we had a after they won the national champion one year, someone actually punched one of the horses, which was not a good thing. But the so that is one of their tactics around nonviolent, you know, trying to control crowds and things like that. So that's one of the reasons why we supported that.
Thanks, Lisa. Thank you. And Anne Marie, do you want to close out our discussion from our candidates today?
Yes, thank you so much. I think that there's been so much that's very common amongst everybody who's spoken today. We talk about how we're going to get to these voters. I knocked about 2,000 doors in 2019 and 2020. We couldn't knock them, so we called them. I don't even know how many thousands of phone calls we make. I can tell you that in our districts, my experience is whether you're calling a Democrat, an independent, or Republican, sometimes the conversations are not that different. Unlike the people that are on these phone calls, a lot of folks are identified with their party in a sense, or by not being in a party, but it doesn't mean their beliefs are common. And sometimes it's the hardest thing is to figure out what that person cares about at the door in that couple of seconds that you have. I've had some fabulous conversations with Republicans who just haven't been bothered to change their party, but are unhappy with where they see things go, because either they don't really identify with the Democrats, they haven't bothered to take in the time to be an independent, they'd like to vote in the primary. I mean, any of those reasons. My husband was a Republican until 2018 when he got fed up and switched. That took him a while, and that was sort of an eye opener into it. Yeah. I think that there are plenty of folks who are still registered as Democrats in Bucks County, and I know Gwen would probably know this as well, that aren't truly where the party is right now. They're not even maybe to the far right of it. They've bought into the blather from the far right, and they can be very hostile when you get them. And then there's the independents in the middle. Right. So, and they may be independent because they dislike both parties, and they're going to take more time to cultivate. So one of the things we can do, because these districts are very large, you can knock a lot of doors, and that is key to winning. But you also have to get to all those doors you can't knock. And, you know, whether we like it or not, that means digital or mail or all these other things. And as a candidate who's run before, that's where I see the importance of the work that we're doing now in terms of fundraising. I hate to harp on it, but I don't see in any of these districts how we win if we can't get the repeated message to the doors, because the other side is going to do that, and they're going to do it with money that they don't raise phone call by phone call.
Thank you, Anne. You know, and this is one of those things that we have I call these elections, everybody has their lane. Our lane is raising money on a statewide basis so that we can funnel it into the campaigns that need the money. And that's what Represent PA does. And we're so proud of the women that we've endorsed. There are a lot of other lanes. You can go volunteer at any one of these campaigns and go knock doors. You can, and go to Turn PA Blue's website. That's where I usually send people as a clearinghouse. They decide who needs door knocking. They decide where people need to go than we do, but it's going to take all of us together to win. And oh my gosh, I feel like crying again, because this has just been an amazing session. I'm so proud of these women. Most of them I have not had a chance to talk to before, but each and every one of them will have your best interest at heart, Pennsylvania, if we can figure out ways to get them elected. My last couple slides. May 17th is primary election. And after that, we're going to have our next round of funding. We're going to send update questionnaires to all of our previously endorsed candidates. How's it going? How's the campaign? What's your path to victory? And we're going to revisit the few campaigns that we set aside from the April round, where we had women running against women, where we weren't sure that there was a path to victory in the race. And we're going to go relook at those. And we're going to raise money and raise awareness for future investments. Oh, by the way, did I say you should donate to us? You can go to our website. You can find links to the videos of past events. You can share the video of this one and say, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what I had a chance to do on a Tuesday morning, and look what the people I've got to hear from. Invite your friends to join us by donating, attending briefings, or volunteering. In late May, sometime after the primary, we're going to hear from a few of the candidates that we invested in their primaries. and congratulate them on their victories. And then we're going to keep moving on. Join our mailing list, invest with us, and thank you all so much for being with us today and sticking with us. It's been a wonderful session. Thank you.